Moving on with the news, and Croatian police say around 55,000 refugees have entered the country from Serbia since Wednesday. The number is expected to rise. This comes after Hungarian police used tear gas and water cannons to push asylum seekers away from its borders. Hungary's also used barbed wire fences to close its border with Slovenia. Over the past days, European countries have taken tougher measures against asylum seekers. The refugees are fleeing conflicts and poverty in their home countries. Many of them have died while trying to reach Europe via sea and land. Well, to shed more light into this story, we're joined by Paola Ruffo. He's the Secretary General of the CIPI Foundation, joining us from the EU headquarters, Brussels. Well, it looks like the unprecedented flow of refugees has put the old enemies at each other's throats, tit-for-tat measures from both countries, while the lives of thousands of refugees are at stake. How is this going to affect these refugees fleeing war and poverty and persecution?
Well, the situation is very confused still, because the meetings of the ministries of interior have been following one the other, but still a solution which is comprehensive for the entire European Union is not in sight. So we have a very weak framework at a common level in the European Union, and then everything is then delegated at national level. And at national level prevail, of course, fears and national policies and political situations of each single country, which makes the situation very different area by area. And what we see in the eastern and southeastern part of Europe is a normal reaction, I would say, from countries which are not rich. They've joined the Union very recently. They do not have even the resources to manage this huge influx of refugees. So the situation is a sort of a limbo for the time being.
Well, the EU already had an emergency meeting in Brussels in which they agreed to adopt certain measures to help these smaller countries which don't have the resources. But it looks like the crisis has little sign of abating. In fact, on the front lines, it's only growing. What does this say about the agreement and the division among the EU? What is the point of the EU? Why was it made?
Well, the EU was made for economic purposes, and it is not prepared to handle such a significant number of refugees entering the territory of the EU member states. So we will continue to see a great degree of confusion, and numbers of refugees will probably even increase in the near future, because it is quite clear that from Syria, all those who do not want to stay in Syria any longer under the jihadist groups or even in the war areas in the north, then will flee the country and necessarily will spill over into Turkey, and from Turkey to Europe. So this is a situation that has to be addressed commonly at central level, but we are still far away from a solution, because governments tend to keep this under their own control. They do not want to accept a centralized management of it. So it's a shameful situation from the humanitarian point of view, and from a governance point of view shows all the weakness of the European system.
Thank you very much, Paola Ruffo, Secretary General of the CIPI Foundation, joining us from the EU headquarters in Brussels.